Support for Carolina Business Review provided by Grant Thornton. Operating in more than 100 countries, our tax, audit, and advisory professionals specialize in helping companies unlock their growth potential. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of South Carolina, where healthcare is changing for the better. Find out how at ahealthysc.tv. And by Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services, with more than 300 operations in 35 countries.
The power of currency is almost as important as where it's placed. For decades, the Carolinas have built from within, moved goods around, and watched jobs grow, then go overseas. But recently, the winds have shifted and we're riding more tailwinds than facing strong headwinds. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the most widely watched program on Carolina business and public policy. I'm Dr. Cheryl Richards, filling in for Chris William, and our conversation today is worth its weight in gold. At the intersection of a strong economy are solid foundations, business-friendly legislation, and of course the glue is human capital. Our guests today discuss trade in the Carolinas. It's the power of partnerships, the pen, and the people.
Major funding also by Novant Health, bringing you world-class technology, clinicians, and care when and where you need it. The Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. And by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. Who's responsible for rising healthcare costs? Join us and many others in a candid discussion at letstalkcost.com. This edition of Carolina Business Review was recorded August 16th, 2013. On this week's program, Chris Bernat of Vapor Apparel, Ronnie Bryant of the Charlotte Regional Partnership, Jeff Miles of the North Carolina Ports Authority, and Clarke Thompson of the South Carolina Department of Commerce.
Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining our conversation today.
Thank you.
I've got a few tongue twisters to get us started in this. So let's talk about some of the changing policies and the people and the pen and its impact on our trade in the Carolinas. We'll start maybe talking about not offshoring, but onshoring and what that means to us. Chris, you want to get us kicked off?
Sure. Well, first of all, on behalf of myself and my partner Jackson Bernat, the rest of the team at Vapor, thank you for having us on again. The last time we were here, we were waiting on the Colombian Free Trade Agreement. Obviously, it went through or you wouldn't have had us back. So we think that it was a great victory for free trade. It's had a significant impact on our business, but I believe it's had an impact that's very positive on all of South Carolina. We were talking earlier about trade missions going down to Colombia, and there's just a real big opportunity there. For us, it's created a lot of jobs and a lot of new made in the USA products.
Correct. Yes, the Colombia issue that you were talking about, we waited for quite a while for that free trade agreement to finally get passed, and we see the result, and you're being able to import product there and make items here. It's been very important, but also it gives South Carolina companies and U.S. companies overall the opportunity to sell their product in Colombia with no tax.
And we think that's an economically wise decision. I mean, we're bringing jobs in, right, as opposed to offshoring jobs, so that's a good thing. But what other tax policies are out there that are going to hinder this ability to continue growing?
I mean, we're thrilled with the scenario as it is. One of the ironies of the trade legislation we were working under prior is we were working under what's called APDEA, and duty-free our T-shirts, completed garments were, but our bulk fabric was not. So we were paying a duty on our bulk fabric, which could have actually caused jobs in the United States. So with the change, the ratification of it by Congress, we were then that burden was removed from us, and it really served as a linchpin for the third part of our business plan, which was we wanted to make a Made in the USA line that was focused on digital print technologies, mass customization, and a quality performance fabric. Since the time it began, we added 20 jobs, and that's in 1 year for a relatively small company. 5 of those jobs are within our organization, another 15 are up here in North Carolina. So it's happening, and we're going up against Pakistan, we're going up against China, and for the upper third of the market, we're going to win, where value is more important. I don't think that will happen for denim or flannel shirts. It's hard to create a lot of value in something that's not mass customized. So there's a lot of technology in our business, and it's not indicative of typical apparel.
So Jeff, let me come over to you because, I think products, goods and services are, the mainstay of our economies, but getting those around, importing those and exporting those are a key to the successful distribution system. So we've had a little bit of tension in the system with some logistics and distribution. From your vantage point, where do you think that we need to be setting our sights next to continue to sustain this growth?
Well, I think in the context of the trend you've noted on nearshoring or onshoring, there are benefits that accrue to balancing trade a bit more by making it an environment that sustains and facilitates more exports. We get a more balanced flow, and that makes for greater efficiency in the supply chain, first of all. And it seems to be also, in a particularly localized sense, it helps the North Carolina ports compete more effectively for trade in the apparel business and elsewhere if the supply chains are more north and south between here and the Caribbean and South America versus the big east-west trades that are long haul coming from Asia and the near Asian peninsulas.
And how's the intermodal facility going to help us here?
Well, the intermodal facility is something that makes a market reach more economically viable, or market size more economically viable. North Carolina ports and the South Atlantic region more broadly have take great benefit from having an intermodal system that's viable and efficient, in that it helps us reach those big inland markets like Atlanta, like Chicago, like Kansas City or Cincinnati, and up into those areas. And so as more trade flows through there, those systems like to have a concentration, a density of flow. So anything that's happening on an origin and destination level, whether it's trade policy or legislative actions that concentrates more trade through these portals, will accrue to the benefit of the intermodal system as well.
I would like to follow up on Jeff relative to the intermodal facility that's being now constructed at nearing completion, really, at Charlotte International Airport. The integration of barge, truck, rail, and air, commercial air cargo service that will happen there at that particular facility truly positions the Charlotte region and this portion of North Carolina as truly a logistics center, and truly enhances our ability to be more aggressive as we attract more foreign direct investment, as we facilitate more export. Also, but from a domestic perspective, making Charlotte a true distribution center, which will attract more domestic manufacturing and distribution opportunity. I also want to put a plug in. You were talking about the aspects of policy, but I think we need to keep in mind too the foreign trade zone, which is a federal program that our organization administers, Foreign Trade Zone number 57, which is in our region, and truly gives companies that are engaged either in exporting or manufacturing, and international firms engaged in manufacturing and shipping offshore, an opportunity to participate in duty deferral or tariff reduction, and gives us an opportunity again to have one more tool that will make us attractive to companies that are interested in entering into this market, which leads me into the third piece, which is our foreign direct investment piece. So I think when you think about international business engagement, one piece is onshoring, one piece is offshoring, another piece is export, and then the final piece is foreign direct investment. And what we've been able to do is develop a comprehensive program of international business development activity which encompasses all of these.
And you couldn't do that without the infrastructure in place to support it.
Very much so. We have to have the transportation infrastructure, the rail infrastructure, et cetera. And if you think about one of our true strengths in this region is our geographical positioning, and the fact that that we have access to several major ports, including the ports in North Carolina, but the Port of Charleston, and also we even market the Port of Norfolk as a true asset in helping us be more competitive.
So let's take this, we're talking about infrastructure and the growth of jobs. So where is the intersection of this connectivity between infrastructure, transportation, and technology?
Well, I guess when you look at the infrastructure question, we've just wrestled with this in South Carolina in our past General Assembly session, where I think it was $1 billion put towards road repair, bridge repair, which of course is a small part of what's needed, because over the years we've had tough times and money has not been put really towards that. So we're finally seeing a commitment by the governor, by the legislature, to put money towards those repairs. And you have to have good roads to get product to the ports. And so from infrastructure standpoint, we're starting in that direction. And I believe it's $1 billion per year over the next 10 years.
I think on the North State, just to add to that, there are a couple of key initiatives being spearheaded by the North Carolina Department of Transportation, and the first is just the restructuring of the leadership of the various logistics assets and infrastructure within the state. North Carolina Ports Authority very recently has been moved into an alliance reporting relationship with the North Carolina Department of Transportation as a way of sort of getting all of our logistics development activities aligned and focused in the right direction. And the second thing is the important change that's been initiated and taken forward. This strategic mobility funding mechanism will help get the money where it's got the most leverage, where the most benefit from the spend will come. So I think that goes to getting the most bang for your buck on your infrastructure spend and having it targeted right to the logistics industry, who would be the end user of these resources.
We've talked a lot about, the physical infrastructure of cities, but I know you've put some infrastructure and technology in your business. How does that play into this?
Well, just real quick to follow up on your nearshoring comment, one of the things that we've really leveraged successfully here in the last 2 quarters is we now do a weekly air freight out of Bogota to Charleston. You don't want to do that if you're sourcing out of Asia. It can get really expensive really fast. So that's allowed us to right size our inventory. It's made our inventory more appropriate to the business that's happening on a rapid basis. With regards to technology, we're really, I argue consistently with people that I'm not really in the apparel business. We're in the mass customization and digital print technology business. The top third of our market, people are not buying clothing from us. They're buying mass customization. They want names and numbers, and they want full color sponsor logos on paintball jerseys and other athletic garments that we work for. The Boy Scouts do similar things with us. But if you're going to develop a effective onshoring strategy as a manufacturer in the United States, you have to automate. So we've automated, and our biggest investment going forward over the next 12 months will be, frankly, 6 figures on up into eliminating bottlenecks in the way our graphics are processed and just enhancing the flow of the process. Often we're stuck in art with too much stuff. It's like, wait a minute, we've got people that keep busy back here. So automating all that is critical.
So suffice to say, the business of manufacturing has changed.
Yes.
So let me go to the next component of economic development, which is the jobs and the people to fill those jobs. So now we're moving into the education space of having the appropriate workers trained with those skills. And from your vantage point in South Carolina, North Carolina, where do you see some great opportunities for us to grow that workforce?
Well, of course, as you may have heard my boss, Secretary Bobby Hitt, talk several times, workforce development is our Achilles heel, and it is for South Carolina and really for most other states. Where will that be down the road? So I think from South Carolina's perspective, we've put a lot of support, a lot of energy into our Ready SC program, which most states have that train workers for companies that are coming in to the state. But our apprenticeship program that they have. The apprenticeship program, I believe, is grown about 500% the last few years. We're a work-ready state. I think there are 185,000, can't remember the exact number, 185,000 people are qualified for work ready, meaning work keys. So the students are being prepared way ahead of graduation for careers in manufacturing and other things later.
Let me ask you, Ronnie, because you get to sell what he just said, right? So is that really true?
Well, that's true, and I really, let me back up a step. I think his comments are very true, but let's set the stage here. We talk about technology and the type of skills that are needed within a manufacturing environment, and we want to grow that manufacturing base, but for decades, our economic development strategy has been based on a quantity of jobs. But within a manufacturing environment, quality can be more prominent than quantity. Yeah. And for example, it's not unusual for a manufacturing facility to announce a $60 million expansion, which might require a 20% reduction in workforce because of the technology that's being employed in the processes. So that's changed some thinking or rethinking for us in the economic development environment. So if there is a shortage or if there's a challenge, from my perspective, in the continuing to restore the manufacturing critical mass, not only in our region but nationally, it's how do we address the workforce issue and shortage thereof. We in this country, at least from my perspective, do not respect the quality of what are really sustainable jobs within a manufacturing environment. And in Europe, they do a very good job of quote unquote tracking students at 13, 14, 15 years old. And they get good students into a quote unquote blue collar environment where we still have that dirty manufacturing, low wages, back-breaking labor attitude towards manufacturing in this country, which is so very untrue.
Yeah. It's very
true. But how do we get parents and others to expose our young people to these opportunities at an early age? And you even know in your academic environment you have 4-year degreed individuals going back to community college to get a certificate to work at a manufacturing facility. And so we have to move the needle in that regards and remove that image of a manufacturing job being a dirty job. And some manufacturing facilities are cleaner than my office. It tells you a lot about my office, but they truly are. And truly,
it's a long-term mental readjustment of the
long-term,
population.
and it starts, honestly, it starts with parents too.
So the manufacturing industry needs to get its swagger back. Is that what you're saying,
Very
Ronnie?
much so, and I think we in the public policy arena need to be part of that educational process.
There's another area that needs to get some education too, or attention too, and not only is it manufacturing, but you've got to have a trained workforce that knows how to manage these long and complex supply chains. So there needs to be educational focus on logisticians, the next generation of them.
Absolutely. So we talk about, making manufacturing sexy, right? Because you're absolutely right. You see parents who are influencing their children's decision, which influences who you can hire and the skills that they have that they're bringing to the table.
And we have a unique skill set. I've watched very enviously how the system has worked to educate employees for Boeing, and you see that at the community college level in the Low Country, and I'm an enormous advocate of that. We are in a very unique type of business, and so we end up training our own people. It's tough to get hired. Everybody has to sign off on a new employee within our organization. Some of the organizations we've been effectively working with is we've had interns with my alma mater, Clemson University. The graphics college up there is nationally ranked. Those interns come in and they really contribute effectively quickly. You're right about logistics. Even though we're near shore, it is still a complex process, especially when you're taking those pieces and reassembling them and manufacturing them here. So it's hard to find good people. I look forward to it getting easier.
We all do. I think we all do. And there, there's a component that you've talked about, Chris, which is the advanced manufacturing and the technology skills that are there, but also this business readiness. And so teaching people the business of business and how to do imports and exports in a smart way, how to move goods and services across borders. So what kind of wisdom do you bring from your vantage points as you sit and you look at this complex problem that we're facing in our nation right now? How do you impart your wisdom as we move forward?
I tell them to pretend it's their money.
Damn.
That seems to focus their minds and bring forth a level of creativity that a whole lot of words can't.
So then let's talk about money. Let's talk about currency manipulation. What's going on there? How do you explain that?
I don't. I contend with it on a daily basis. We were talking earlier, and as I mentioned, we're going up against. I was just out at the Imprinted Sportswear show in Las Vegas, and we introduced our new Made in the USA product officially. We've been running it for a year now, but we thought it would be a novel approach to actually know what we're doing before we went to market. I was dealing with several brands who were suffering from offshore fatigue, is what I call it. There was one gentleman I was on the phone with yesterday. It's 1,500 units of product a month, which is healthy business. I mean, we're talking about a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a month program. That's real money with real margin. He had been in China for 2 years, and then things shifted. Minimum order quantities started going up. Samples weren't free anymore. And then there was a wholesale adjustment in the people actually making his product. Then he went to Pakistan, where he was successful a couple of years. Then he went to Mexico after that one failed. And he had told me several years ago, Chris, I'll never be making my stuff in the States. I think you're crazy for your plan. And then yesterday he said, I'm sending you samples. And, and I said, well, it's going to be 16% more. And he said, that's okay. You speak English, you're in my time zone. There's a lot of intrinsic value associated with that. And we're looking for partners. We don't want a big order and then nothing. We want to have a steady, Freddy type business, which is why we've been successful with folks like the Boy Scouts of America. One of our large strategic partners and customers is Frank Hintz with American Backcountry up in Asheville. He appreciates the green factor of our manufacturing. We're in a LEED certified building. Colombia is one of the 25 greenest countries on the planet. This will knock you out. 70% of Colombia's energy supply is non-carbon renewable energy. So we're green at a lot of levels, and in certain markets you get credit for that. In a lot of markets you don't.
So you're definitely feeling the tailwinds as opposed to the headwinds now.
Yes,
So
yes,
we'll
it's nice.
So we're about down to the last few minutes of our program, and I want to pose the question to each of you about the news that North Carolina Department of Commerce is interested in setting up a public-private partnership here in the economic development arena for recruiting jobs. So give me your 20, 30-second take on what this means to you, and I get to save Ronnie for the last. So Clarke, start us off.
Well, it's a new venture for them. I don't know a lot about it other than what I've read in the press. I know some other states have done it. Florida, I think Oregon had done it at one time. In a lot of ways, it's set up the same way that we are in some other states, where we also take in private money that is used for certain things. So we do mix private and public money in our organization, although we're not considered a nonprofit or a private group. But it's an experiment, and we'll see if it works, and hopefully it won't work too well.
What's your take on this? 20 seconds.
I've had my nose down in my business, so I don't know. I do know this. Today, oddly enough, the Panama Canal opened in 1914.
Wow.
How much has trade changed since then? We are excited about our relationship with Colombia. We're ready to take on the other areas of the world, and we're going to continue to try and create some real high quality jobs here in the Carolinas.
And we thank you.
We thank everybody who's helping us make it happen.
You got about 10 seconds.
I work for an entrepreneurial agency. I think that if you can structure any government agency in a way that it operates and like a business, it probably is a move in the right direction, because your counterparty is a business person.
Ronnie, you get one word.
One word. I think it's an opportunity to be more nimble, an opportunity to be more flexible, operating as a business, and take some of the bureaucratic slowness that's generated from slow decision making.
That was a very long word, Ronnie.
It just strings on.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Major funding for Carolina Business Review was provided by the Duke Endowment, a private foundation enriching communities in the Carolinas through higher education, healthcare, rural churches, and children's services. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. Who's responsible for rising healthcare costs? Join us and many others in a candid discussion at letstalkcost.com. Grant Thornton. Operating in more than 100 countries, our tax, audit, and advisory professionals specialize in helping companies unlock their growth potential. Novant Health, bringing you world-class technology, clinicians, and care when and where you need it. Sunoco, a global manufacturer of consumer and industrial packaging products and provider of packaging services, with more than 300 operations in 35 countries. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of South Carolina, where healthcare is changing for the better. Find out how at ahealthysc.tv. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Promotional consideration provided by Business North Carolina Magazine. For more information, visit carolinabusinessreview.com.